Natali. Eleftheria. I think like Natali I think it means born on Christmas, like genuinely. And then Eleftheria in Greek translates to freedom. And Melanie is my grandmother's name, Melana. I think it means like purple. I'm from Greece originally. My parents are both from Greece. There's a little mini story to that. They moved to Sweden when they got married, so I was born there. I lived in Sweden the first 5 years of my life, but both Greek parents, super Greek culture. We moved back to Greece when I was 5, so like first grade I think I started. And then I lived there till I was 10. So 5 years of my life in Sweden, 5 years in Greece. That's where I'm mostly from and connect with. And then we moved to the US when I was 10. Moving from Greece, very European country, to the US at 10 years old was definitely a culture shock. The first thing, and I'll never forget, is we stayed with my aunt and uncle, and they played this prank on us because you know they say everything's like bigger in the US. So they made our like welcome dinner that night with like the huge like utensils that you use for salad, to serve salad, like the big serving spoon and the fork, as a joke for us. And like it's so funny because even then, that was what, 25 years ago? It's still true, like everything is bigger and different here. But yeah, I felt very welcomed. My school was super prepared to welcome me. They assigned someone to be like my buddy. She had like cards with translations in Greek and English. So it was really embarrassing at that age because I was 10 years old and I had to have like a translator with note cards, but we became best friends. She was super interested in learning Greek and became like part of my family. And by that summer, I started school in 4th grade. In January we moved, and by that summer when we finished, I was fluent in English. I have 2 older sisters. They're both 15 years older than me, and to this day you can hear their accent, and people, they're like, you don't have an accent. Like, but when you're older, it's different. We moved to the US because we had some family here already. My mother's brother was here and he had a business, so he kind of helped us get started. My parents unfortunately had a split, so my dad stayed in Greece and my mom picked up and started a new life with her 3 daughters and me. Yeah, I just remember having like 1 suitcase with my whole life stuff in it at 10 years old and just arriving in New York from living in a beach town in Greece. But it's honestly all really beautiful memories. Like, yeah, I feel like my family had like a plan. We had support here in the States with family, and you know, like Latin culture, Greeks stick together. So we started fresh. We lived in Jersey. That New York was like the closest airport that we flew into. And I lived in Jersey until my junior year of high school, and then my senior year of high school we moved to Delaware, which is just like 2 hours south of there. What people don't know is that it's also like a very coastal town. It's like dead in the winter, comes alive in the summer, and that's where to this day I consider like my home in the US, because it has like the climate that I grew up, that's like Greece. We have 4 seasons, there's a beach, people migrate there for that. But yeah, I finished high school in Delaware. That was also another like interesting part, because at that age you think you're so cool and important and your friends mean everything to you. And I was like, oh, my senior year I have to switch schools, but it was the best thing. I was living in LA before Miami for about 4 years, and I moved to Miami on a whim. My best friend was living here and she was like, hey, in a couple months, like one of my bedrooms is opening up, I'm gonna need a roommate. And I was kind of in the same situation where my lease was ending in LA, and I feel like I wasn't fully doing what I love. So I was like kind of in a limbo in life. So I just said yes. I said, okay, like if I don't do this right now, we'll never live together and we're still young and single and best friends, like let's do it. It was the best choice I ever made. Ironically, she left me and moved to California just a few months after I moved here. So whenever I see her, I'm like, you left me. But she like gave me a home and built-in friends and a job. So it was actually like, I feel very lucky and fortunate that I had like a little bit of a setup, much like how it was transitioning from Greece to the States. I think when I was younger, around 10 or that time, I always dreamed of becoming a teacher. I don't know why, but thinking back now, I think it makes sense. My father was a teacher growing up. He was a math teacher. Ironically, that's my worst subject. I've actually failed math class. And my oldest became a yoga teacher, and I feel like she kind of like passed that down to me, because it wasn't until 30 years old that I like took on my career that's also aligned with who I am as a person. And it's ironic because I'm kind of a teacher now. Right. Kind of like a full-time teacher. I think there's a few things that shaped who I am and how I've become now. I think one thing for me is realizing the power of community. Moving to a different country and culture at so young was really scary, but I was welcomed with a lot of love, especially from like my classmates in 4th grade at 10 years old. And that kind of showed me like people can love and care for you. But I think maybe part of that fear and that transition actually made me so shy and self-conscious, maybe learning a new language, that public speaking for me was really hard and really scary. Like I was the person that would stay home and skip school when I had to share a speech or something. But becoming a yoga teacher helped me find my voice. It helped me break that barrier of like public speaking and showing up in front of others. And that's been so healing. And then with that also comes community. Sharing vulnerably, you know, teaching some days where there's hard days, teaching the days where I feel empowered, and people connect with you. Whether your best self or you're at your lowest, if you just continue to showing up in that authentically, continues to connect you with community. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful.
My yoga career started secretly when I was like 15, because my oldest sister was a yoga teacher. And she forced me to take her class. And I just had like a breakthrough moment at that time, like 16 years old, you feel everything. And I remember crying at the end of class and being like, why did I just cry when nothing is wrong? What was that feeling? But I feel like something was like activated or cracked open inside of me. So that curiosity stayed all through high school and college. When I finished college, realizing I wasn't in line or aligned with what I was studying, even though I tried studying psychology, which is I love people and connecting with people and helping people. Then I studied radiology, which is the study of bones, because I'm also super interested in the body and the anatomy and how we move and why people stand different, you know, like all that stuff. There's like, and then I think I was like, wait, I can put that together. Let me go to yoga training. At that time, my oldest was at the point in her career where she was offering teacher trainings. And I think I either took her first or second training. Now she's done probably over 20. Graduated and have been teaching yoga for almost 10 years. 2015 is when, in March actually, so this March will be my 10-year yoga teaching anniversary. I think my yoga teaching and practice has definitely evolved as I've grown older, because I started so young. There was a more athletic side to Natali at one point where she was like six-pack and aesthetics and like strong, and that's the type of practice that I had and the crazy poses that I could do. And at the time I was more interested in like, I thought I would maybe go into yoga for athletes or recovery, or maybe working with like NFL or something like that. But I think as I've come into my 30s and I've leaned more into my feminine essence and understanding that depth and wanting to be with her, that's been a reflection into how I teach and how I connect with people, where now it's translated so much, not so much from the body and how hard we can push ourselves or the cool shapes that we can make, to like what's here, you know? And that's helped me connect in another sort of way with women and that community, and helping to show them like who they really are at their essence, like how they came into this world. And as we get older, we forget and lose that, but just really like helping them come back to what's already there. There was 2020, a year we all remember very well. I was working on Miami Beach at the SLS Hotel, and I was a cocktail waitress. That was my part-time job. My other part-time was teaching yoga outside on the beach, very casually, but like I was leaning on that job more. And when the world stopped and quarantine started, I remember that year I was turning 30, and I had like a little inner self goal that by 30 I would just be fully in my purpose, right? I just put this crazy pressure on me, but the universe kind of was like, hello, like this is the time. The rug is being taken from under your feet and you need to figure out how to stand. And I was like, I could do Warrior 2 on that shit. Like, I'm coming back to my yoga career. I got this. So I just ran with it. And at the time, people needed connection. They needed to be outdoors. They needed a release. And, you know, it actually helped my career take off. That's when I built my community, teaching outside, connecting with people, no production, no lights, no scents, no sound system like I have now. Yeah, and it just felt right. It felt easy. Like coming home exhausted and dirty and sweaty and stinky was like kind of a rewarding feeling, not like a, I'm taking off my alcohol stained clothes because I've been feeding people drinks all day and like, yeah, I made them laugh, but did I really make them connect with themselves? Now it's like they come home dirty from their tears and their sweat, you know, and it's like they actually did some work. They took something home with them. I think as you're younger, it's easier to like push your body and your energy more. So I was a little bit younger, not that I'm old now, but it is 5 years later since I took it super serious. So I was dealing with wind, rain, temperature, all those elements of teaching outdoors. And after a couple of years, I noticed my voice getting raspier, and I like to sing in my regular classes. I like to sing and chant. So I was worried about the future of my voice, mainly. So I found the perfect person to share a studio with, and I've got my first 4 walls. So it evolved into that, and seeing how the community migrated, how adaptable they were, following me wherever, however it looked, even if it wasn't, you know, Miami's most aesthetic studio, they were coming for that feeling of like knowing they're gonna get a hug when they walk in, they're gonna get a hug when they walk out, and a real person is there. Also aligning another part of me, which is like the furry spirit, the adventure that loves to travel and see the world. So just doing retreats was like super aligned with that. I think I always wanted to travel for work. So I found a way to put it together. It's fun, exciting now for me to be like, where are like bucket list places in the world that people want to go but maybe won't, or they're too afraid to plan a trip there, or would never go otherwise, or like would think they have to, you know, collect their money's life savings to go. And can I make it accessible to them? Can I just organize it and be like, just pay and then trust and be held, you know, and just show up. This is my 3rd year doing retreats, and I think I just did my 10th also retreat. I think, and you were on it.
Yes, that was the 10th.
It's a, yeah, lucky number 10 year for me. I would go back and tell my younger self, feel the fear and do it anyway. My biggest fear with starting yoga and starting that career was definitely public speaking. Yeah, definitely my biggest fear. And I would like to say that that fear still lives within me. You know, it's almost like a seed that has come with me as an adult. So I have to just continue to tend to that fear. But becoming more confident by repeating what I'm teaching, being super prepared because I just love what I teach so much that I'm always researching new things to talk about or teach. Feeling like the desire to share and make others feel good and let them know that they can feel so good was stronger than my fear. So the desire to share like what I have to teach was bigger than my fear. I'm always gonna be a little bit nervous or a little bit scared, but like, am I aligned with what I'm doing? Do I love it? Am I prepared? You know? And how do I feel after? Reminding myself those things, like, it's so easy to keep going.
So what limiting belief you had to overcome to become the woman you are today?
I think a limiting belief that I used to have, that I no longer have. You can't ask for help, or that like others maybe don't want to help. Through sharing vulnerably and being part of a community, being a very welcoming person that genuinely loves and cares and is curious about others, I've learned that people are just as like willing to help. People want to help, people want to support, and sometimes it actually makes people feel good to be asked for help. It makes people feel like worthy and loved and trusted. So like understanding that has been really big for me. Asking for help is okay, and it actually connects you to people. Yeah, and like we can't do it all by ourselves. Like of course, like we're women and we're strong and powerful and we're fully capable, but like having support is also equally as powerful and beautiful. And there's people that want to give you that support, so not forgetting that. I think my advice for someone who has like a hard time asking for help or being more vulnerable would be that, yeah, like it's okay to not always be okay, or to feel like you can't do it all by yourself, and you need to know what that feels like. And then just trusting, like even if you have two friends in life, like if you know that you can exercise reaching out to them, and remember the response you're gonna get, which is more than likely always gonna be a yes, or like, oh my God, I'm here for you. Remember that once you're done, you're going to feel like superwoman, you know? Yeah. Remember that once you've actually asked your one friend or your mom or whoever for support, you're just gonna feel closer to them. And you might even make their day. So just kind of remembering like the after effect is really important, because we forget that part. I always tell my community, like when I'm very vulnerable online, like, you know, I don't post videos of myself crying all the time or whatever, but I do say like, hey, just because I'm a yoga teacher in Miami and I look very busy and I travel all the time, like I'd love to go to yoga with you, or I'd love to meet you for coffee. Like don't forget, like you can always reach out to me and I can always make time. Like I'm also just another regular person that like wants that connection. So we can all make time for the things we care about or want more of. I wish I could see the future, but no. The future always works out better and different than we imagine anyway. So I'm just going to trust and say that in 10 years from now, Natali like lives in 2 different places. She has a yoga shala somewhere tropical, a place where people can come, learn how to practice yoga. They can host their own retreats, a place where I'll be hosting my own events and retreats and trainings, and that will feel like a home away from home. I'll also be able to come back to wherever my other home is, like Miami or maybe Greece. That feels like the place where like I rest and come back to myself. But then there's like a part of me that can always escape to like my other home where shit gets done and magic is made and created. I don't know where that will be or how it'll look exactly, but I know that there's something bigger that I have yet to build that's like waiting. I never imagined I would be here in a place like Miami, where it is a wonderful place to build community and have opportunities to grow and build a career, make money, make connections, make families. But to be in it and to feel so safe and grounded here, I would have never guessed 8 years ago when I moved here. Dreams definitely do come true. And I think, like we said, part of who we are and how we're brought up shapes our future, the path we take in life in such a creative and sneaky way. I think the things we see and envision as children and little girls really do come true in such a different, bigger way.
If you could talk to her and give her a nice, I don't know, words, what would that be?
I'm gonna cry. Wow, if I could say something to my younger self, I would just repeat what I wrote here. It says, I love you. You're the most beautiful mermaid goddess on earth. You are never alone. You are worthy of all the love and affection, and you can do hard things.
Oh, I love that.
Just grumpy with a water gun. Just get out of my way.
This one is like, you were having a great day, and the other one is like, don't bother me.
Pisces. This is Pisces.
Goodbye.